Hello guys, welcome back to the PixelLab channel. Today we're going to be looking at vibe coding with PixelLab, and we're going to be making a small game with Claude and Godot as their game engine. It's worth mentioning that you can of course use the PixelLab MCP with any of the IDEs such as VS Code, Cursor, Windsurf, even like Perplexity Desktop, or other MCP clients, which you can just get your code. So what can we do with the PixelLab MCP exactly? Well, you can see here the available tools, which are create character, animate character, make top-down tile sets, make side-scroller tile sets, and isometric tiles. Of course, we're also making new tools and we're working on new additions to the MCP, but that's what we have available right now. You can also find different information here and how it can be helpful to your workflow. And of course, we can see the installation steps right here. So you just click the IDE you're using. And today, for example, we're going to be using Claude. And here you can just copy the code, open your terminal, and run the command above. For cursor, it will be open the cursor settings and follow these steps. But as I said, we're going to be using Claude today. And I really do recommend using Claude, specifically if you're using Godot as your game engine. Because the other tools like Cursor, you can of course use Claude and Cursor, but the usage gets kind of limited. And the other models, like the other LLMs such as GPT or Gemini, they do kind of struggle with GD script and with the Godot engine in general, making scenes and stuff like that. They do struggle with that. So that's just a recommendation to use Claude or Claude in general for Godot. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create characters. I'm going to go to the characters creator page, and I was thinking on maybe making a survival farmer game, like a Brotato clone, but with like farmer theme. So basically you're a farmer, you have to survive against waves of anthropomorphic animals from the farm. So let's make a farmer first. So I'm gonna prompt it male farmer wearing a blue overall. I'm gonna do 64 by 64, do high top down, and I'm gonna do realistic male. You can also go to advanced options and do shading and stuff like that. But of course, we covered that in our prior videos on the character creator page. So if you haven't watched that, make sure to go ahead and watch it. So I'm gonna click create. And the reason why I'm making a character in the character creators page and not right away with the MCP tools is because I want to see the character and see if there's any stray pixels, if there's anything I should fix before we import it to our engine. But you could, of course, start with the MCP and just tell it to create a character. Just keep in mind, you won't be able to just edit it right away. You would have to then go into either Sprite or the website itself and edit it. So that's why we're making it first in the site. So here we have our farmer with the blue overall. We can always, of course, go to edit in Pixelorama just to clean up whatever pixels we want. And that way, when we animate, it won't propagate the mistakes we have in here. Just a couple of cleanups just to make sure everything looks good. And when you're happy, just click Save to Character Creator and click Refresh, and it should be all good. So now we're ready to animate and go with a couple animations. I'm gonna do idle, gonna generate in the background so I can keep choosing other animations. I'm also gonna do walking with 6 frames, generate in the background. I'm also gonna do running with 6 frames, also generate in the background. And you can see how they're generating already. We also want a punching animation, so let's do a cross punch. And I think we can end up with fallen back death animation. Of course, you can clean them up again with edit in Pixelorama, or you can delete and redo the animation. which I will probably do. I'm gonna queue up the other directions. As you can see, there's a maximum of 10 background jobs, so keep that in mind. Gotta be a little patient. You can see I can just edit this walking animation on whatever frame I don't like, and then we can just hit refresh, and there you have it. You can see how I'm just deleting a couple of the animations and just redoing them. Alright, so now that I'm happy with that player, I'm just gonna call it farmer main character, just so I can find it easier after. And now I'm gonna do the same process for our first enemy. It's going to be an anthropomorphic chicken, and it's gonna be high top down, realistic male. I'm gonna do the same shading, so flat shading, and I'm gonna create the character. And basically the same process that we did for our player. For this one, I'm gonna do a scary walk, since they're like enemies, maybe like zombie-like animals, who knows. Alright, so now that we're happy with their animations, we can call this chicken enemy, and we can start making our game. So before we do that, remember to set up your PixelLab MCP. So for Claude Code, we would go to terminal, right? Like it says here, open your terminal, run the command above. So you would copy this, and it would say your authorization code here. So I'm gonna do that. And as you can see, it says my MCP server is already configured because I already installed it, but it would just say that it's installing, and it should be all set up with just that one command. So the first thing I'm gonna do is open Godot and create a new project, which I'm gonna call Farm Animals Survival Arena. I'm gonna use a compatibility renderer, and I'm gonna put it on my desktop just so I can locate it easier. And boom, we got our project. So cool. Now that we have our project created, we can open up our terminal and we can locate our folder path. So thing you can do is either go here to the folder, locate your folder, right click, go to services and do new terminal add folder, which is the easy way. Or if you don't want to do that, you can just go to get info, copy here where it says where, copy that, which is the path, and here in the terminal just type in cd, which is change directory, paste the path, and write the folder name, which would be Farm Animals Survival Arena. And there we have it. Now we're in our folder and we can start using Claude. So to start using Claude, we just have to type in Claude, and then it will ask you to trust the files in the folder. We say yes, and now we're all set up. We can start making our game. So the first thing I'm gonna prompt Claude is that we're in Godot 4.4. That's the version I'm using, but you can use any other version. And we're making a small game inspired by Potato, where the main player is a farmer survivor. We have to survive against waves of anthropomorphic farm animals. I want you to read the PixelLab MCP documentation and write a plan.md where you plan out the game structure, phases of development, and references to the PixelLab tools. I'm gonna copy and paste the link of the documentation, which we'll have down in the description. And I'm also gonna tell it to only write the plan.md and make sure to always keep it updated when we make new changes. And boom, let's see. So here you can see it asks me for permission, and you will see it asks us for permission to do any new action. Alright, so now that it made the plan, let's read it real quick before we accept everything. Here it gives us the game concept, the core game loop, the development phases. It says create character, but it will tell that we already made a character. But we can make new characters after with the MCP, just so you can see how that works as well. And there we have the tool references, which is always good to have it. So I'm gonna say yes and allow all edits during the session. Now I'm gonna tell it that I already made 2 characters, so I want you to download them using the PixelLab MCP. They're called Chicken Enemy and Farmer Main Character. Download them and import them to the projects. And for context, we're using 64 by 64 realistic style characters. So import them and update the plan. As you can see, it will look up the characters. Of course, you gotta say yes and don't ask again. Same thing for the downloads. And like I said, it asks you to give permission for every new action. So if you guys want to skip that and want to avoid having to say yes every single time, there is a command that we can run right before we start using Claude. When we open up a terminal, which I'll show you in just a second after it's done importing the characters. Alright, so now it said it downloaded and imported the characters. So let's go to Godot and see. Here we have the assets, we have our chicken, we have our player, and we have all the animations. So you can just tell it to look up your character and it will fetch it and download it and import it with just one prompt. And you don't even have to give it the IDs. You can just tell it the names and it'll work. So now for that command that I mentioned, for being able to skip the yes every time, I'm gonna exit this real quick and I'm gonna open up the terminal one more time. And now, instead of just typing in Claude, we're gonna do Claude and then dash dangerously dash skip dash permissions. That way, it will skip every question you get asked if you wanna allow something to happen. Now, keep in mind, this is at your own risk, so be careful using it. But now that we're back here, I can either resume our conversation, which I will do, or I could just start over, but I'm just gonna resume this conversation. And now I'm gonna tell it to actually start making the game, right? I'm gonna tell it to make the game scene with the characters and make use of all the animations with their gameplay. All right, so right now it told me to run a script to set up the animations, but I really wanted to do it by itself, so I'm just gonna tell it to make the animation work automatically. We don't want to set up anything manually. All right, so it made a couple of new text files, which I'll check just to see what's up with that. But it seems like it's made everything. So let's see. Let's reload this and let's hit play. Let's see if anything works. Oh, well, we got the chickens. We don't have our player. So let's tell it that. Meanwhile, I want to check those text files while it's fixing the bugs. So the README is basically another overview of the game. The setup is basically giving the structure, I guess. And again, instructions on how to play the game. And of course, we have our plan. All right, cool. So it seems like it fixed it. Let's see. Let's hit play. Don't worry about these errors. Nope, still no player. But I can move, which is good. So it seems like the character is still not visible. So as you can see, it's asking me to run it and tell it what I see in the console. But we can actually just give it our Godot path. So if you find your Godot app wherever it's located, I can just get the info, tell it where it is. I'm gonna tell it this is the path for my Godot app. You run it and test it. Now it can test it without us having to go in and copy and paste the errors or whatever. Oh, still I can't see anything. Wow, that's such a weird bug. All right, let's test it now. Oh, there it is. Nice. Oh, cool. Yeah. All right. So now I'm just gonna tell it to fix the jittery camera. Much better. All right. So now I wanted to actually make the player attack. All right, let's test it one more time. Oh no. Oh, well, that's a little glitchy. So let's fix that. Context is low, so I'm just gonna run compact and finish fixing the bugs. I'm just gonna tell it to rewrite the combat logic so we can move on. And there we go. Finally have it working. Okay, I just need the chickens to attack us a little bit more. but we can attack them, which is good. I'm just gonna tell it to fix the animations. And just one small thing, I'm gonna tell it to make it WSAD, because it only put the arrow keys. Hey, that all works. I'm just gonna tell it to bring back the normal waves, and we can make new enemies now, and maybe a tileset. Cool. So now I trust it, fix it. So now let's tell it to create anthropomorphic cow character, heroic style 64 by 64, 8 directions. And when finished, animates it with scary walk animation. We'll ask that just for now, and then we'll ask for the other animations. I'm doing this just to show you how you can create the character using the MCP, and also why we use the create character page instead of the MCP, because we'll probably have some weird pixels. Hopefully not, but usually we do require at least a little bit of manual cleanup. But if you just need prototyping characters, then you can definitely just use the MCP and not leave your IDE. Alright, so the character is done and it's still finishing the scary walk animation. So I'll just tell it to queue up an IO animation as well and a throw animation, because I want it to be different. And also you should know, in general, Claude or the other IDEs, they do usually put a timer just to automatically check. In this case it didn't, but you just be aware that it usually does that. It usually checks automatically if it's done or not. But in this case, I'm just gonna ask it to check. And also keep in mind that the character you ask it to make, it will be in your character's creator page. So here you can see our cow and the animations it's made already. But we'll go back here. Oh well, it queued up an attack animation, which I didn't really want, but I guess we can use it when the player is close to that enemy, it just punches you, and when it's far from it, it uses the throw animation. But again, I needed to queue up throw animation, which it missed. Alright, so it seems like Claude Code got a little confused while trying to finish all the rotations. And well, this can happen sometimes if you ask for too many animations at once. So if it fails on a specific direction, you can either tell the AI to requeue the missing directions, or you can do it manually like I am right now. And here we can see the reason why we don't usually want to do finalized characters with only the MCP. Because here, for example, we have a jab attack with, I don't know, a spell. It's something we could probably just recreate or edit manually. And it's the same with the rotation. It has a shirt in the back and it doesn't have a shirt in the front, which is things we usually can fix when we create the character here or after we get the character. It all depends on your workflow and on your main goal. Alright, now that we have all our animations, now we can tell it, download the character with its animations, import it, and create a cow enemy. It should be able to throw a projectile when far and punch when the player is close. So to use the icon.svg in the project as a placeholder for the projectile, and then I'll give it a sprite. Alright, let's see if the cow is in the game. Well, I don't see no cow. I'm gonna tell it to add the cow to the wave, because I guess it just made the cow and it didn't add it, which is fair. But I want to see it. Alright, let's see. Oh wow, it works. You got the cow. It has a really long range. Look at that. It has a super long range, but it works, which is nice. Nice. Hard. I'm gonna tell it to reduce range rows and less cows, more chickens. Cows are harder. There we go. Nice. Alright, so now I'm gonna compact this conversation because we're running out of context, and I think it's time to make a tile set. Alright, so now I'm gonna tell it to use the PixelLab MCP and make a top-down 32 by 32 grass and dirt tile sets. I'm gonna tell it to check and download it and import it to the project. Alright, so it should be in our project now. Yep, there it is. Now let's tell it to use the tile set and make a map with it. As you can see, it read the documentation. It basically knows how to use the tile sets we made with PixelLab. Alright, so let's test it. We don't have a tile set. I'm just gonna tell it to fix it and let's see. Alright, so you got kind of confused and it made a map scene and it didn't make the map inside of our game scene. So I think now it's gonna fix it and we should be good. So make sure to be as specific as you can with each prompt, because if not, we'll just end up here. Alright, we're almost there. Now we have a map and we just need to get rid of that green box from the player. Oh, we lost. Alright, so now that we have our map, we have a couple of enemies, we have our attacks, our death animation. I think we're just missing a projectile and maybe some droppable items, and we should be good to go. Alright, so for the projectile, I think I'm gonna use the API instead of going to Sprite or Pixelrama. So to use the API, we need to go to the PixelLab website and we need to go to the API tab. And here you'll see your API key, your subscription, and the generations you have available, which are gonna be used before the credits. And then you have documentation and the AI documentation, which if you click, you'll see we copied the actual docs, which we can just give to the AI, like Claude or ChatGPT or Cursor or whatever, and it'll read it and be able to use the API. Of course, you have to give it your API key and then it'll use it. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go to the terminal, I'm gonna copy and I'm gonna paste the link, and I'm gonna say, read the docs. We're gonna create jigs with the API. Alright, so now I'm gonna give it my API key and I'm gonna say, use my API key, and I'm gonna say, create a bucket of milk, top down 32 by 32. I'm gonna be a little bit more specific, and as you can see, if you go to the docs, you can see the tools that are available. So for example, we have generate image with Pixflux or Bitforge. I'm gonna say use Bitforge, generate image. Alright, so we should have a new asset now. There we have it. We didn't really ask to remove the background, so I'm gonna do one more and tell it to remove the background. I'm gonna tell it to make one more bucket of milk and use the remove background setting. Alright, there we go. Now we have the transparent bucket of milk, and we can tell it to use that as a projectile for the cow. And let's see. There we have it. Cool. So now I think we should just have some droppable items and we should be all set. So I'm gonna tell it to make a wheat item, which the enemy will drop. It will give me health and make sure it's transparent. Alright, now here we can see our wheat image. Pretty nice. And now we can test it. Yep, there it is. It heals us and we can keep playing. So I think we can leave it here for today. I hope you found this useful, and I hope you found some potential with the PixelLab MCP and the API, which I think are pretty cool and can make your workflow really nice. So make sure to check it out and let us know what projects you're working on. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.